Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to our read-along of Anthony Trollope's 1867 novel, The Claverings. This is part of our year of reading Trollope novels that are not part of his two famous series, that explicitly in that shared world. This is our year of consorting with lonely Trollopes, the ones who are standalones. And of the standalone novels that Trollope wrote, this one has a long reputation as being perfect, as being more shipshape and tightly controlled than most of his other standalone novels. Even though it doesn't enjoy a whole lot of popularity, it has a lot of critical acclaim. And as the title would suggest, it mainly focuses on the members of the Clavering family. That you've got Harry Clavering, who is one of Trollope's feckless young men who's going into trade. He's going into engineering. With a firm that he apprentices to and then joins. You've got his father, who is a prosperous rector, a complacent and easygoing man who nevertheless has a sense of his own standing in the town, in society. You have the villain of the piece, really, Sir Hugh Clavering, and his feckless ne'er-do-well brother Archie, and you have Sir Hugh's wife, who is the sister of Julia Brabazon, who is the young woman who is at the heart of this book, and like so many of Trollope's books, really deserves the spotlight in a way that she doesn't get. Trollope almost never does that. In He Knew He Was Right, in The American Senator, in Orley Farm, in this book, and a bunch of other books. There's oftentimes a standout, extremely complexly realized female character who nevertheless isn't in the title. And Julie Brabazon is one of those characters, because at the beginning of the book, when we meet her, she is poor, despite being well born. She has no money, and so despite the fact that Harry Clavering is yearning to be her husband, he's pitching woo to her, and she has agreed to accept him, she nevertheless jilts him. That's the word that he uses. That's the term that he uses. She jilts him in favor of Lord Ongar, a debauched nobleman who has a beautiful castle, he has a beautiful country estate, he has a very sufficient income, and is killing himself with brandy and tobacco, and isn't expected to live long. She marries him knowing that he's a wreck of a man. She's not in love with him in any way. And they go off on their honeymoon. And the whole world sort of knows what to make of the choice that Julie Brabazon, now Lady Ongar, makes. The whole world knows what to make of that choice. Especially Sir Hugh's wife, who has just presented him with a little baby heir, and who knows perfectly well the misery of a marriage without love. She doesn't love Sir Hugh. She can barely bring herself to hide that fact, and again, everyone knows it. While Harry is at the engineering firm, he notices and comes to the attention of Florence Burton, a young woman who is, we're told, plain and penniless. Sir Hugh describes her as plain and penniless, but nevertheless, affection blooms between the two of them. Maybe more love on her part than affection, more affection than love on his part. And they once again become affianced. Once again, Harry is affianced. And that looks to be the book, right? That is the settled matter of the book, that if this weren't a novel, if this were just life, then that would just go on. That's what the thing would be. But instead, something happens. Lord Ongar does in fact die. And word trickles from Italy, where he and Lady Ongar are staying. Word trickles to England of some of the circumstances, and it's an ugly picture. He dies an alcoholic's death, with all the details that even Trollope does not draw the curtain all the way back. But Lady Ongar, once she comes back to England, is fairly free with details about how horrible those last months were of caring for her husband, but also longer than that, when he wasn't bedridden, but he had come to hate her. He'd come to realize that marriage wasn't what he wanted, and wants to trap her into being disgraceful, disreputable, so that he can break the terms of their marriage contract, which give her the use of Ongar Park, the country estate, for the term of her natural life, with all of the thousands of pounds a year needed for its upkeep, plus a huge amount of money every year as just an allowance. Lord Ongar has other heirs. There are other members of the family who don't want her to have that, and at the end of his life, he doesn't want her to have it either. But there's no way for him to bring a bill of divorce unless he can prove cause, and she's determined not to give him any. So although he throws another man in her way, he intentionally puts another man in the house, in her way, in fairly intimate circumstances, Count Pateroff, so that he can then brood about that she was doing something disreputable. She doesn't ever do that. She stays with him, she sticks with him, and she outright tells him she's staying with him not only for his money, but for her own good name. And when he dies, she writes to Sir Hugh, her nearest male relative, the head of her family, telling him that she plans to move back to England right away. She's not going to stay in Italy. There's nothing for her there. She's going to move back to England right away. And would he arrange lodgings for her in London while she gets her bearings and before she moves out to Ongar Park? And he won't have anything to do with her. He tells his browbeaten, put-upon wife that it's a disgrace, that he halfway believes the rumors against her, and that he's certainly not going to defend her, when his wife says, and Julie herself says, that it's his job to defend her. He's her foremost male defender, but he won't do it. And he won't have anything to do with her. Doesn't want to go and meet her, doesn't want to find lodgings for her, anything like that. But his wife thinks that it would be incredibly heartless and hard. Hard is the word that keeps coming up in connection with Sir Hugh. If that didn't happen, if the family didn't extend that kindness in some way. And so I'm thinking, with unmixed motives, she calls on Harry to do her that favor. She thinks it's harmless because she knows that Harry is the next thing to married. He's the next thing to a married. He's practically a married man to Florence Burton. So it should be safe, even though everybody knows what Harry thought, what he felt about Julie Brabazon. Lady Clavering asks him to go to London, meet her at the train station, and arrange lodgings for her, and he does. She's all in widow's weeds. She has a maid with her, and he finds her accommodations, and he meets with her, and she writes to him, and clearly wants to be on intimate, friendly terms again. At the beginning, he's constantly asking himself, does she know about Florence Burton? Does she know that I'm affianced to be married? Does she know that we cannot be together anymore? We cannot be, that can never happen. We don't know. At first, we don't know whether or not she knows that. But it quickly becomes obvious that all of the troubles that she had in Italy have followed her to England. Count Pateroff has followed her to England, and so has Sophie Gordeloup, the Count's sister. One of the standout characters in this novel in an entirely negative way. Oh my God, I have a feeling, those of you who haven't read this book, I have a feeling that by the end of the book, you're going to want Sophie Gordeloup good and properly dead. Certainly if you do, you will share that in common with a number of the most vocal readers in the lending libraries of London. Maybe not the critics, but the popular readers of this book hated her. And we're clearly meant to. We're clearly meant to hate this pint-sized, bird-like, inveterate, loathsome troublemaker. This parasite. We're clearly meant to hate her. But maybe that isn't obvious in the chapters that we're reading today. It will become more so. I should give you a Sophie Gordeloup warning, because she's going to be in this novel right up to the end, and you're not going to like it. You're going to love hating her. I think that's the skill that Trollope has. But what we get in this book in rapid succession, I mean, we are building a horribly darkening picture of Sir Hugh and of Archie, and Archie and the Count are both clearly thinking about Julie Brabazon in a proprietary way. There's a sweepstakes that's on the minute she comes back into the picture, and that sweepstakes has basically three people in it. There's the Count, there's Archie, and there's also Harry. And as the chapters move on, that becomes the book's central drama. What is Harry going to do? Is it possible that he can be swayed by Lady Ongar's beauty, by her money, by her property, by the fact that she wants to lay it all at his feet? Is it possible that even though his intentions are known to Florence Burton, is it possible that he could be swayed to do to Florence what Julia did to him? And that is the active matter of the chapters that we're reading today, and it's got me full of questions for you. about what you're making of this book. I feel certain. I'm not sure that all of you will say that this is as technically flawless as critics have said. I have a feeling that I can guess what a lot of you will think is the weak thread, and a technically flawless novel would not have one. I'll be interested to hear it, of course. I leave my email on every video, so feel free to email me about anything. And I think I threw you a curveball in terms of chaptering, in terms of chapter numbering for last time. We went quite a ways in this book for this time around, so we won't do that again next time. I'm going to get to the chapter settings here. What did we, where did we stop? Where did we stop last time? Was it chapter 20? The day of the, or no, well, anyway, we are now in the second weekend of June. So for the third weekend in June, let's just go to, let's go to chapter 30, Doodles in Mount Street. Let's just go there. I don't remember exactly. The paging is a bit of a mess, but then again, we're not talking about this in terms of cliffhangers, right? So I will be intentionally mindful of spoilers, and we will just muddle along. And it will be much clearer next week, because next week will be at the 3/4 mark. So let's just go to chapter 30, which is Doodles in Mount Street, and then after that we'll just read to the end. And you will know already, you will know even now what the main impact of this book will be, which is that. Are you blaming Lady Ongar? Are you blaming Harry? Are you blaming both of them for what's going on here? I mean, the novel has many other people in it, of course, and all of those people have an aim or a stake involved, and none of them is particularly nice, except maybe Harry's father and Harry's mother. They are the Claverings seem like very good. The Claverings seem like very good people. Just basically, I don't think that point is made as strongly as it could be. But most of them seem like good people. Even Archie seems harmless, not particularly evil. So I'll be interested to know what you're making of the family dynamic there, and which is not a minor point because it's the title of the book. But the main question here, the main discussion is going to be Harry and Lady Ongar. What are you making of that? And are you noticing of course, you're noticing similarities in not only this fascinating woman at the heart of a plot by the most Victorian of Victorian male writers, but also this recurring theme in Trollope's books of a young man who just isn't what you want him to be. You wish that he had a little bit more backbone. I mean, we thought the same thing of a couple of characters in The American Senator, and they go way back, even to Phineas Finn, who had 2 books of his own. And I'm wondering if you're feeling that same way about Harry Clavering. Are you getting Phineas Finn vibes from him, that he's a good-looking milksop? Or do you think that maybe there's a little more to him than that? I'm curious to know. So we're going to wrap up the Claverings for now, and we will return to it next Sunday, I hope. Next Sunday, and we will read all the way to the precipice of the ending. So I will wrap this up for now, and we'll reconvene then. Thank you, BookTube.